afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And our obligatory episode for today is Mars in Libra. And the clickbait title for this episode, other than the pigeon that I found at the cafe, is it's indecisiveness rather than manipulation. So, this episode is broadcasted to you on a Saturn day and moon hour with moon in the second house in Sagittarius, the last decan of Sagittarius, squaring Mars in the 29th degree of Virgo in the 11th. And this Mars is ruling the ascendant and separating from an opposition to Neptune. Mars is ruled by retrograde Mercury. The most angular planet that we have is Saturn retrograde in the fifth house. So that's the point of projection into the topic. And before I'll get to the transit of Mars in Libra, which is what prompted this episode, the upcoming transit, I want to give you a timeless teaching on Mars in Libra. And to do that, let's begin with the ceremony of compartmentalization. What is Libra? So, Libra is a constellation that is ruled by Venus. Tropically, we have Libra in the tropical sign that is not related to the constellation. It is simple. The depiction of Libra is basically the scales. And Libra is ruled by Venus. Its triplicity ruler is Mercury. And its exaltation ruler is Saturn. But before I begin to talk about Libra with the planets, let's talk about the scales. So the scales, we know the scales as both the scales of justice and the scales that we use to measure something when we buy something. And that already, if you think about the scales and you try to think about the planet, it might not be Venus that comes up initially, but actually Mercury, because this is where we compare one thing to another upon a certain agreement or a certain verdict. The word verdict is very strong with Libra because we ask, do you know when you buy something in the market? And in some cultures, for example, in Israeli culture, sometimes you ask, before you ask the price, you literally ask, what is the verdict? Or what is the damage? It's kind of like, what is the verdict? And the pricing or the price tag is kind of considered like the verdict. It's the judgment, it's the amount you have to pay for the purchase or for what you've done or what you're about to do, which is to make a purchase. And so Libra consists of two things that we compare. And even the way to decide on a hierarchy, which is Saturn, is made by you compare two. And then let's say you compare, I don't know, 2 bits of gold. So 1 bit of gold and 2 bits of gold. 2 bits of gold makes the side of the heavier product, the heavyweight stuff, sink. Okay, there's a sink into the heavier side. And then you take these 2 ounces of gold and you compare them with something that weighs, let's say, 3 ounces of gold. And you measure them on the scale. So something we understand from that is that traditionally or historically, trade consisted of something that has equality in matter. Okay, if you have, let's say, 2 ounces of, I don't know, gold or a given metal that is used for the coinage, you weight it against the weight and decide on the pricing. And later, basically, we decided that everything has a pricing, and then we add another parameter. So we add it against the weight and double in the price that we want to give to the product. So measurement became more complex. But then when you want to compare more than one thing and see who is the highest, so you measure two, and then you take the one that won and measure it against the next, and so on and so forth, until you decide what is the heaviest measurement. And this is already the hierarchy, which is Saturn. Okay? The items of value that we weight and the symmetry between them, this is Venus. So Venus is value. Mercury is the act of trial and error to see how to balance the scales. And Saturn is hierarchy, which is the most expensive, which is the most blah, blah, blah. All are needed to do trade, to decide on the price, on the verdict, how much we have to pay, but also, or how much do we get for our money, but also in the scales of justice, which is a more symbolic phase of the scale. So we do have, when we talk about Libra as Venus ruled, we also talk about symmetry. Okay, the scales as a symbol of symmetry, and then it has an aesthetic feature. And the thing with Libra is that there can be a tendency to equate pricing, fair pricing or fair trade, with fair judgment and fair aesthetics. Okay, what looks beautiful because it is symmetrical does not mean that it is just, or that it worth, the price that you're asked to pay for it. And of course, Venus also rules relationship, and you can take it to kind of like many places where there can be an attraction to beauty, beauty set up as a high value, moral aesthetic of beauty, symmetry as requirement. It's the image of something, it's the image of justice, it's the image of fair trade, as not necessarily getting at the essence, because we try to measure it through the means of air, calculation, computation, equating one thing to another, and we know that these models do not really adhere to the complexity that is human life. And yet we do have a need to decide how much we pay in the market, to have a verdict in the court system, or to be seen as beautiful, okay, by a loved one, if it's high on the value, if you're in some way Venusian, and Venus rules connectivity and relations. Of course, this measurement can also have to do with art. What is the value of an artistic work? It's very much a scale, a Libra question. Now let's go to Mars. Okay? Mars is ruling Scorpio and Aries. Okay, so it's ruling a water sign and it's ruling a fire sign. Mars is ruling iron, is ruling penetration, the penis, anything that is phallic, basically. It also rules sharp objects, which can get quite problematic when you say, okay, this is the penis and the weapon. But Venus was also the goddess of love and war. And with Mars, it's decisive action. There's decisive action. There is passion. There is deep psychological penetration, but also on a physical level. It's basically moving, breaking through, moving forward, giving direction, setting a goal and going after this goal is a very Mars thing. So Mars, as the ruler of Aries, is considered to be in detriment in the opposite sign, which is Libra. And so while Saturn excels here, because Saturn is around dedication, measurement, trying again until you get something accurate and durable, Mars is, as the ruler of Aries, is about the head of the baby comes out. What you need for innovation is a cardinal fire, okay? It's an impulsive passion and drive to do something, to do it anyway. Okay? A lot of people that would tell you, even soldiers or martial people, they tell you that that which we call an act of courage, if it's in any way Aries related, is an impulse that is courageous, but you don't feel courageous. It's like you did it, and you sometimes think maybe this is stupid, but it's about the impulse to do something, or to do the right thing that is coming from an instinct that is almost like a Tourette. You gotta do this. And I'm not saying this to well, it's a part of the features of Aries to say something quickly, to say something that they consider this is right, and they don't consider if they offend anybody, like the analogy I just gave, to the impulse of a tick. It's almost like a tick of doing the right thing, versus Scorpio, which is more measured. It's coming after Libra. It's more deeply psychological. It decides on a strategy. Aries acts and things later, but it's instinct. It's almost tick of, hey, that's something wrong here. Boom, you did something about this. That's Mars. And so take this very ambitious, instinctual, deeply psychological, but also quite explosive power action that is about deciding, severing ties with the unjust, or going in is like entering the door, going in, setting a goal, conquering the goal. Okay. Mars is the ruler of Scorpio, is kind of more controlled, which is needed to actually be able to also have intimacy and will and consent. But when we take this planet and we transfer it to the scale, how do you think a penis feels about the act of measurement and comparison? And you know, this is what Mars rules. There is no better example. Okay, it completely gets out of function. Whose gun is more elaborated? Whose gun is the best? And while Aries is very competitive, which is the other polarity of Libra, there really is no point in putting Mars, seemingly, okay, in the position of having your skills measured. It's your fall point, okay? If you think about being Martian and instinctually doing the right thing, and then that being measured against the scale of justice. You think about, for example, on a mundane level, the International Court of Justice, which is in The Hague, that decides on war crimes. What is a war crime? And of course, we have the image of justice. We know that some people get to be seen more, have aesthetic value that is playing to what is considered political, and some do not get to be seen, do not get to be heard, and are not even discussed at the International Court of Law. And because they don't have the means, they don't have the ability to represent themselves. But there is another thing. When you think about the Martian people that are being judged, to saying, okay, this was a war crime, their complaint is usually, you didn't have the hands-on experience, you haven't been to the battlefield. You talk about high ideals in theory, in the air, but you haven't been in the line of fire. You don't know what it takes to protect somebody. You don't know what it takes when you have to kill somebody. But then Aries can also be quite impulsive. And so Mars in Libra is judged. Your actions are being measured. Is it the right thing to do? Did you do the right thing? How much of it was right? What should we need to change? Was it balanced? Was your reaction balanced to the other, and Mars reactions like, I was in a freaking traumatic situation of life risking. I did what I had to do to survive. And then Libra kind of comes and says, okay, what can we learn from that? Maybe you need retreat. Maybe you need to seclude yourself. Maybe you need, what is the measurement of your action? What is the measurement of the goals that you've been setting, which is also Mars? Is it a righteous goal? Is it a balanced goal? Are you aiming too much for the sky? And those things are the complete polarity. They really turn off the Martian fire that takes to the courageous impulsive acts to protect and to innovate and to start something new. You think about a new country having to be registered in the United Nations, okay? Or you think about a new business, because Mars also rules real estate and business, having to be registered with all the right bureaucracy. Now you think about the drive behind entrepreneurship. I don't like what's going in the market. I'm going to do something about it. And then you have to register yourself in the exact institution that you don't like, that is doing what you consider atrocities. So basically, the very act of Mars being at the Libra is Mars being at the place where atrocities are performed in the eyes of Mars, and having to like, what can Mars do in Libra? It doesn't measure things against each other. It just acts. But then we understand that we do need to act proportionally, and we do need to measure things and to choose our battles, and we do need to decide on the verdict. And so the act of righteousness and enforcement is not separate from the act of balancing, equating, and judging. And so the combination, why Mars is in detriment, because in Aries there's a cardinal fire. Your gut knows and you act on it. You just poof. This is not right. Poof, you act on it. But in Libra, Mars is expected to act from the air. And yes, that can be aircraft, like air attacks and stuff like that, or accidents in aircraft, because it's air sign, not because of Libra. But Mars is basically asked to think before it acts and to act correctly. But the dark side of Libra is that Mars is asked to act in a visible image of justice rather than an essential, guttural, impulsive, cardinal, that's the right thing to do. It's not that that's the right thing to do, and it's also asked to explain itself. Why are you doing what you're doing? What is the logic to your actions? And this logic for Mars, it's like it knows what's right, but it doesn't always know to explain to you why that is the right thing to do. Okay? So Mars is in a really big problem. If you take the penis into the scales of comparison, you understand that you're losing your power. Okay, it's like you're not supposed to scale one thing up against when it comes to penises. You're not supposed to take the applied science or the applied action and kind of like filter it through the image of justice that doesn't necessarily apply hands-on experience. So Mars here is very much, its detriment is very much fallen, is very much unable to perform. Okay, that being said, it's not that this is useless to look at our Martian actions and think, is this the right thing to do? It's not that it is not right to take our penises and wonder about where they've been going, what they've been doing, and how do we get them to do something more right. And it's something that is a very, very, very difficult position for Mars to be. If Mars in Cancer is fallen because it acts out emotionally rather than from the guttural fire or from that deeply psychological understanding of the situation and acting in a way where you get to win this thing, and if you choose the light and you do the right thing, with Cancer, it's kind of like, well, you just act out your emotions, and that can be quite destructive because you have the potential for the emotions to drive your passion more so than the instinct that actually makes for the breakthrough, which is in Aries, or that deeply psychological transformation after having gone through Libra and understanding that sometimes our guttural instinct do need refinement. For example, when we come to have intercourse, which is Mars and Venus ruling both Taurus and Libra. And so it's kind of like Mars is right, but right doesn't get the other person to be wet. Um, so, and so there is a certain act of diplomacy that the Mars has to mature itself, and this is not an easy process as you have figured. So this is a timeless teaching of any Mars in Libra. It cannot perform at its best. It is required for a very necessary yet sometimes superficial look at its performance. It is where war crimes are discussed, but it doesn't necessarily reflect the essence of justice as Mars would like for that to be. And yet Mars himself has a thing or two to learn about adding the possibility that their gut instinct can be improved upon, perhaps in Scorpio. So that is the timeless teaching. Okay? People talk about Mars in Libra as passive aggressive, manipulative. That can result. However, with Libra, it's more about trying to make things look good. So it can be considered superficial, but Libra understand that looks are not superficial. Okay? So it can be more about trying to make it look good rather than trying to make it be right, and trying to make it be balanced rather than trying to make it essentially blend in and in harmony. But Libra can also mean that there are some things that even if you are right, you want to be smart and you want to be doing things in a way that doesn't expose you to being seen in a way, to have an image that you wouldn't want to have. Okay? And therefore there is a genuine indecisiveness to Libra, because it is so busy with the act of balancing and figuring out what is the right thing to do. Okay, Libra is good at measuring things, but it's the polar opposite from decisive action, which is Mars. And when Mars comes to Libra, there is a potential for decisive action that is well calculated. So well calculated action. And yet, I must forewarn you that what seems to be as a manipulation ends up, in essence, much more about being undecisive and the intense need to make something look good. And so that can spark compassion within us and understand that what seems to be like the person is being indecisive, are they being manipulative, no, they're just trying to decide on what is right and what looks right and how to make them one. Okay? Or if it is even possible to make them one. Okay? How to, and their tool of the trade is, how do I measure one thing against another? And it's not always working. Okay, if you take two people that went through violence, and one of them has gone through psychological violence and one of them has gone through physical violence, and you try to weight one thing against another, you get really weird results. And eventually you think like, oh, if we give more weight to the physical, then we are erasing the psychological, and then we are performing gaslighting. If we give more weight to the psychological and we are outruling the physical, we don't give enough weight to the fact that physical survival, Mars, is involved in psychological decisions. Okay, and so we can say this person is narcissist, this person is gaslighter, but in fact they're just fighting for their survival. And if we haven't changed the physical circumstances where they have food, they have land, they have what they physically need, which is difficult for Libra to do because they are air sign. Okay? They are air sign, they're not earth sign. And so there's the desire that the person will get a hold of its impulses regardless of the survivalistic situation that they're in. It's very beautiful ideal to aspire to, but it also can bring poverty, and it also can bring situations that are really impossible on the person. This is having Mars in Libra, and it means that you are being perceived as manipulative more often than you actually are, because what you're trying to do is to figure out the impossible things and to make them work. And what it comes out as is an image of being manipulative, or you say, okay, at least I will take care of my image because you're Libra, and then your actions are not in alignment with that image, and then it seems really odd and manipulative. But again, if Mars is the one, we decided on this action, this is the road to go, Libra is the two. Okay, so while Libra shows two, there is Mars that is doing one, and also there is Mars that is doing one that tries to account for two. For example, you try to account for both situations. If I win or if I lose, how would I like to treat my enemy? How would I like to be treated? Okay, those are very intricate and heavyweight questions. Or if I win, I must treat my enemy respectfully, because if I lose, I would want to be treated with respect, and I don't want to be mistreated even if I lose in a certain conflict. Okay, this is more a wisdom of Mars that would later go into Scorpio and either choose the light or choose something else. But that's more the timeless teaching. Now let's go to the transit. So we are going to read astroseek.com monthly astral calendar, and let's begin the ingress of Mars to Libra. Mars enters Libra on August 27th. And this is the chart of the ingress. It's 0 degrees Libra, and it is still separating from Neptune. It is very much in orbit. It's not a 3 degrees tight orb, it's a wider orb, but Mars is still being opposed by the planet of confusion as it enters Libra. So Mars in Libra is confusing enough. Okay? What is right? What is the right action? Mars enters the door. When Mars enters the door, it is ardent, it is passionate, it wants to do something, and then it's like sees scales. There's like, should we do this? Should we do that? Should we do that? Should we do this? And then there is Neptune opposing, which is kind of like making it an even more survivalistic decision because the boundaries are being crossed. Neptune has the quality of illusion, disillusionment, boundaryless, violation of boundaries. Neptune Mars can be violation of boundaries. And right on the entrance, Mars has to be dealing with this opposition. Okay, in Virgo, Mars could say harsh words, or Mars could say the wrong words, or Mars could say very decisive words that are lies. With Libra in general, Mars can say something that is not necessarily the truth, but it looks like the truth because of the image thingy, or Mars wants to lie in favor of your safety or the image, to preserve the image and the status of itself or the people he's around with. So there could be outright lies that are not well intending necessarily. They're just like, this is what you need to do to preserve an image. You need to lie. You need to beautify things. You need to make it look like it's equal. because it doesn't, like, you, in Libra, inherently you try to make something equal that does not have, that does not, the scales does not apply to as a model, and so you have to make it look like this is equal, and this is how you sell it. If it's justice, if it's a policy, if it's a moral position, and so on and so forth. And that is something we need to be aware of. And Mars upon the ingress is also separating from a trine to Pluto. So Mars is already in its trine to Pluto when now separating in Virgo. And Mars Pluto is very deep, okay? It's very informed, it's very deep, it's understanding of underlying mechanisms. But what trines Pluto opposes Neptune right now. And so you could have a deep understanding of the psychological mechanism of things and still lose. And that is the beginning of Mars, okay? It's just doing something with outer planets pretty much. And as we go about this transition, we'll begin with August, and we see, yeah, we don't really have anything in August. We can directly go to September and see what particular major aspects does Mars make in September. And funnily enough, the biggest thing that we see is only the Mars opposing Chiron. Mars will oppose Chiron when it is in 18 degrees Libra. The Sun will already be in Libra. This has happened September 24, so I think the eclipse is on, it's on October. Yeah, we still have time. So this opposition between Chiron and Mars Mars is first of all ruling Chiron right now, okay? Chiron, we know of it as the wounded healer. This is where we have to address something that has been wounded in us. And Chiron in Aries, it is the sense of self, its identity, it's the ability to assert ourselves. It is the instinct to act on what's right instinctively, to identify what's right instinctively and act on it. Mars opposing Chiron is hitting a very manifesting aspect on Chiron, which means either something is going to happen, some action is going to be taken or not taken. And, you know, if Mars in Libra is taking the penis to the scale, now opposing Chiron is kind of like addressing the wound. And that can manifest as, oh, you have a very beautiful, very, you know, dignified penis, but it won't erect because so and so and so and so and so. And Libra will tell it as it is, or will beautify things. And so the person either gets a fake orgasm, or they actually get a detailed explanation that touches on their deepest wound of the sense of self, of their manhood. Or somebody tells you, you know, of course you have been thinking negative thoughts about vaginas and vagina people, then of course you try to perform a sexual act. Then naturally, sooner or later, you know, it's going to be problematic, it's going to be accumulated, going to be difficult. Or on the level of weapon, your attack, your strategy is being tested, and either your strategy has been good, but you're being lied to. It's like, again, I'm being told that I didn't do the right thing when I know I did the right thing, okay? Or you kind of like, oh shit, I really thought I did the right thing, and it looks like I haven't. It's like, that seemed like a good idea at its time, and you're kind of like, oh shit, but that is wounding because it's your ability to have this righteous action, this sense of self, is who you are, is very much related to how you act, and you kind of like, well, I did not act properly, and this is an actual wound to be addressed, and it will be ignited. Venus is directing Leo by that time, and she's trining. So the ruler of Mars and Chiron the ruler of Mars, indirectly tending to Chiron, is trining Chiron and sextiling Mars, in separating aspect from Leo. At this time, kind of, there can be a comic relief, a performative act, kind of like laughing at yourself in public, making a joke of things, or because I don't think it will be public humiliation here. It's actually remediation or acceptance of even when you didn't do the right thing, even when you were wrong. You still have grace. And the sun, although it is falling in Libra, she is ruling that Venus. So there is this interesting receptivity between Venus and the sun. And while they don't see each other and the sun is opposing Neptune, yes, there can be unfortunately a bit of a humiliation in public with this one, but there is also something like the loss here also has to do with certain healing. Venus is trining and Chiron and sextiling Mars. So even if there is a bit of a public being losing at court, for example, can be a situation if you are a leader, but there is also a lot of grace. It's like you might not got the verdict that you were correct, but there's still a grace. We can understand why you were wrong, and we could give you the chance to humble yourself in a way that is more gracious, okay, and less like vindictive, or it's more like the compassion, the chesed, than the din, okay? So there is grace to what is going on, okay? Or even if you're, let's say you did the right thing, but again, they cannot show you. You want something, but they have to give it to another contester because they want to create a certain image of political correctness. You might still be addressed and be acknowledged, even publicly, and you will receive grace. You just might not win number one, okay? So that is kind of such a situation. And let's go already to October. And October, let's see what Mars is doing. And until October 12th, Mars is in... this will mean that our eclipse will be with Mars already in Scorpio, which is a very strong Mars for the eclipse. It's not the Mars with Libra. We will have an eclipse on Mars with Mars in Libra, but this one we get to have Mars strong. It is closer to Ketu than to Rahu, and that can be various results, but it's a very strong Mars ruling Rahu. Other than that, Mars will be opposing the nodes. Mars will be opposing the Rahu, so it will be conjuncting Ketu on October 5. This also means that Mars is on a fixed star called Spica at 25 degrees of Libra. Spica is eloquence and to be able to win in trade. So you might be able to win in trade, but there is also Ketu here, and Ketu is purging something. If you're litigating and if you... Yes, like you're winning something. You might be winning something over. But it is opposing where you need to go, okay? It can kind of be like you're winning an argument, but you have to let it go. Because Mars is opposing Rahu, which is in Mars sign. And that means that where you're heading... Okay, if the head of the dragon, what you're eating, where you're heading, where you're going towards, is the opposite trajectory for where you are now. So it can be a situation where you came back to win something and let it go. The moon is decreasing, so it's a good time, it's a very potent time to have closure. To be able to articulate, you can articulate your position in some court case, or you can articulate your position regarding to a relational matter of the past. Venus is still finalizing her shade period in Leo here, applying to oppose Saturn. So you can have this sombre closure where you're like, okay, I'm done with that. I won this case. I took this case, and I'm letting it go. Okay, there's no preceded action here. Um, as to wealth, whatever wealth you gain here, can you keep it? Will it be yours? I don't know. Okay, so it's more about like restorative justice. But when it comes to, it can even mean you donate the money that you get. It's kind of like you win a court case and you donate the money that you get, and then that's it. You move on. In Keto we are, and I take it by Carpiel, we are thinking about others more so than ourselves. So if you're winning at a court case, if you're winning an argument, if you're winning in trade, it's very likely that you either give this money to your family or donate this money to other people who need it. I can give example. I had a friend, Maya First, which litigated the Haifa University for assistance in human trafficking and within academia, and she won the ability to say the name of the university. But the thing is, what she thought to do when if the university pay her money, is to make it a fund that other people that want to litigate institutions or offenders will be able to have accessibility to litigation. There were some laws passed that made it easier at the time. And so it can be something like this, like you win a court case, but you basically don't enjoy the money yourself. Because Rahu is pointing to other type of estates, other types of wealth. Mars as a wealth maker, as a state owner, as business innovator here, or you can be merging, okay, it can be a merging and acquisition deal, but the money doesn't go to you, or you reinvest it, but you don't reinvest it in your business, okay? So you're basically letting go of something. It's like, this is behind me, I am letting go of something, I'm making place for the new, and it's very good time to make place. This is happening 5 October. Think about it, we are before eclipses. So you're creating a void by the act of letting go and severing ties, and it can be an act of donation of wealth. You're letting go, and you're creating a void that will allow you to get what you desire, what your soul is heading towards in Aries. If it is anything relational, you could be severing ties with a relationship, then that will allow you later to get into a new one, because it's Mars Venus. If it's economically, you're letting go of some old case, you're winning there, you're letting go, and you're making space for, like, okay, this battle is won, now it's a new page, it's a new start. But you don't really have more business to do there. Okay, it's not something that you take with you here with Ketu. It's very unlikely that it's something that you take with you here in Ketu. It's more about the visible win, this receptivity again between the Sun and Venus. They don't see each other, but they are receptive. The Sun is fallen, and Venus is opposing Saturn. So there's something even about this win where everybody is hurting, and you're just like, okay, let's donate this money and let this go. And Me Too cases are very much like this, because by the time that passed, you kind of understand more things, and you're like, okay, everybody is hurting, let's just close this thing and let it go. Okay. You're not likely to be letting go of wealth here, but you're also not likely to personally gain wealth that stays by you. It can also mean like somebody pays you money that you just want to transfer it from this pocket to that pocket, so that this money will go to better hands. but none of them are your pocket. That is how I see this. And the conjunction with Spica, it means that there is a certain closure, there's a certain purging, where eloquence and success in trade is granted, and yet it is not. We don't want to hold on to it. You have to let it go. Yes, you've been successful now. Okay, let it go. It's very compatible, for example, if you've been thinking about starting a new venture or a new business, and this kind of like an old grant that you donate, or maybe you going from welfare to well-being, and you kind of like, okay, I want this, I deserve this, but I'm not going to use this wealth myself, and I'm going to open the door for new ventures or something like that. Those are the options that I see here. The moon decreasing is separating from this aspect as it perfects. So we will have an applying moon to this aspect. You're very much closing and letting go. Then we have October 9, Mars squares Pluto. Mars in Libra is exactly squaring Pluto, and there is vertex next to Pluto. So I think I've answered in another episode the question about vertex. Vertex is a fated point, it's a pivotal point that nothing can happen, but if something happens, it is a fated thing. It can be a fated encounter, a fated event. On a mundane level, something fated is happening. Mars squaring Pluto is in no way gentle, and it is in no way nice, even from Libra. And this is also a Mars that is separating from Ketu, is already close to Scorpio. It is trining Saturn here. It's applying to trine Saturn. It is not at its weakest in Libra, and it is sextile in Venus here. So this is Mars, the strongest that it could be in Libra. Okay, it's the strongest that it could be in Libra. It's very supported by the applying to trine to Saturn. So Mars is more sombre, more mature, more enduring, and the sextile to 29th degree conjuncting Lilith Venus that is also opposing Saturn. So they're all, whatever Mars is doing here, if Mars is at all allowed to act, it is very controlled. It is very, well, it sextiles Venus, okay? It sextiles Venus is opposing Saturn, so both Mars and Venus are being kept in check. And yet there is this square to Pluto. Mars square Pluto is the two planets that are associated with Scorpio at odds. So you think about scorpionic forces at odds. And yes, I totally think that you will not be harmed by considering the fact that Pluto has association with Scorpio, even if you don't look at it as rulership. Two very deeply Plutonian, scorpionic, psychological, strategic, deep, and able of being vengeful, but also able of being very forgiving. Okay, Scorpio can be incredibly forgiving in as much as it can be incredibly vengeful, because it goes through the full range of emotions. Eventually, it can let go deeply and really make something dead to it. So that's no longer. And so we have basically two scorpionic forces at odds. One at the end of Capricorn, which is more Saturn ruled, and this Saturn is opposing Venus and trining Mars. And the other is more of the Libra type. So you think about the International Court of Justice versus world, global, the trade, whatnot, or the WHO. Okay, WHO versus Haag. Okay, the WHO versus the Haag. So that can be something that happens on a mundane level. Can we put the WHO to the International Court of Justice, we probably can. So the who versus the hach, and that can absolutely be, but all is very controlled, all is very reciprocative. The forces are reciprocative with each other, and yet there is tremendous tension between them. Even if there is violence, it is controlled. So you see with Venus here, she's ruling Mars. She's opposing Saturn, so she's receiving criticism and stoppings, but she sextiles Mars, which is trining Saturn. Okay? So if women rights that are the women Lilith kind of thing, and with Venus is close to Regulus here, the women that are connected with their like gut instinct of what is just, they can receive support from this Mars that receives support from Saturn that is also ruling Pluto, but they do have to deal with the conflict with Pluto. The outer planet has something to say to us when it's a conflicting. We have to be completely transformed. Okay, so Mars is asked to be transformed when it acts, and Mars is in its own domain, so it is transformed at home. If you think about the who versus the hach, then it's very much that kind of a situation. I can tell you what it does on a mundane level. On a personal level, anything conflictual that you tackle here, you must understand one thing. First of all, nobody is acting just from instinct. It has been harboring way, way, way deeper than that. Two, the action is being controlled and being delayed. So if you're saying, oh, this person, what did they do? They're so impulsive. It's not impulsive. They have been controlled. They have been stopped. This is the remnants of the action that you're getting. And you need to understand it, because Mars squaring Pluto is some very potent action, okay? If even on a mundane level, you kind of like, somebody shoots somebody. It's like, how can there be a breach in security? And I don't know, the Pentagon, okay? But what you don't know is that the entire armed forces and intelligence have been keeping it at one person shooting, because right now there were troops coming to the Pentagon that were not arriving there, and you don't even know it because of the nature of Pluto that hides things. Okay, so it's kind of like, how can there be this breach in security? It's like, oh, you don't know what breach in security were, and we're not going to tell you. Say thank you that this was only this one person shooting. And that is, especially if the shooter is a woman, okay? Because Mars rules weapon, it's like, especially if it is a woman, you must understand that this is centuries old, okay? So that has been allowed, and Venus is still trining Aries. Rahu is with Aries. Rahu will be very close to Aries on this upcoming eclipse. It is the eclipse of Aries. Okay, Aries has already been involved. She's involved once again, tremendously. Yes, the eclipse is going to be in Libra, but Aries with Rahu is not exempt from throwing the card of discord. And the card of discord is mainly intended to get you to think about something from a whole new perspective. Everyone's fighting everyone. You think about something from a whole new perspective. I can give a concrete example. Let's say the person who was an offender towards me in academia. They were also veterans from war. And so I began to see things that they see, and they probably began to see things that I see. And they had problem like with anything holistic medicine or something like that, because they were saved by surgery and so on and so forth. But then the very beta blockers that I was given when I was escaping him, and I ditched them later, those are also given to people with heart condition, and he went through a heart surgery. Okay, so it's kind of like, hey, those beta blockers that they probably prescribed to you after a heart condition, if you take them, they would risk your life. You would be dead, and there would be nobody helping around. And it's this person that you try to portray as this crazy woman that got to know these beta blockers and said don't use them, and see this is not good for people after cancer, for people after heart attack, and for people who have been through violence and having a psychic attack. It's like, don't psychic attack me, darling. The same pills that you're trying to put me on, you are taking, you need to take them out if you want to live. I'm not your enemy. Okay? This is the card of discord with Aries, because there's this whole event. Somebody's feeling humiliated. Somebody has to escape for their life. Somebody this, somebody that. And Aries is about poisoning. And the same poison that was given to the offender, that they might not even know it's poison, was given to they were trying to give this the forced medication to the person that that says, oh no, like the king is naked, so to Zagen. It's like, no, this person is doing bad things. We should really change his behavior. And that is very much the card of Aries. It's the card, eventually there's enlightenment. Eventually it's like, oh, you were trying to put this person down, but they hold the key to your situation. And consequently, this person that has his own traumas and stuff like that was holding key to my being aware of certain traumas that I had, and so on and so forth. So this is the card of discord that Aries brings to a situation. And with people with the variant, we see more people. We even had doctors that are smiling at the camera when they say, oh, we're going to have another booster shot, the sixth one. Climate lockdowns are coming up. And they're smiling, and they're laughing. So people already see that. It's already visible. And this is very much the card of discord with Aries, because now you begin to think about what things are being put in my body that they don't know when I go to the doctors. Where is actual medication stopped from arriving the market? So where the pill that could help me, I don't get, and what I do get is intended to control, poison, kill, and whatnot. So people are opening their eyes, but this is thanks to Aries, because when that was happening with psychiatry, it was very niche. But when that happens with the entire population on planet Earth, everybody has to be enlightened. Everybody has to tend to this issue, and everybody sees that something happened to their family doctor in recent years. Something happened to their ability to get a diagnosis. Something happened to their ability to get treatment. Something really weird and fucked up is happening. The minute people started to connect fibro and trauma, or endo and more holistic stuff, and immune disorders, and the environment that you're living in, and can you access nature, boom, the entire holistic medicine community has been on the spotlight, and every problem we blame them, so that we don't have to face what's happening in the medical field. Okay, that's Aries. She is still the card of discord. Venus is still trining Aries. Pluto is still squaring Aries, and Mars is coming from the opposition. Okay, so Mars, the ruler of Aries, is opposing Aries. It's gonna be a whole lot of being aware to stuff that we shocking realizations. Okay, shocking realizations, shocking eurekas, points of views that we didn't even understand, that can be radical. All of the above, and that's only preparing us for the eclipse. This is the last aspect Mars makes before he enters Scorpio, which will be on October 12th, 2023. Okay, so Mars will ingress Scorpio as it is sextiling Lilith and still sextiling Venus. And Saturn is already in the 0 degree of Pisces, so there will be a trine with Mars. Mars is receiving a lot of support, and is separating from the square to Pluto. So October 9 is going to be a certain, like, either crisis situation or the aftermath of a crisis situation, kind of like the implication or the karma or whatnot, We have to reconsider things, and this is the last that we get before we're going to get an eclipse on this point. And this is October 14 already? No. Is this October 14 the eclipse? My God, me. No, October 28. Okay, I have to make sure. Let's look at the eclipses because I need to see this. See, it doesn't tell me here. So let's take a look, because I won't leave you without a bit more looking at the eclipse on this Libra Mars video. Eclipses, yes. And so, we have, oh my God, okay, we have 2 eclipses in October. I said, what is both? Yeah, both of them are eclipses. So it looks like a separate video, but I'll begin a bit now and then I'll go to a separate video. Okay, so this is the 14 eclipse. Okay, so we have the 9 and then we have, boom, the 14 eclipse. Mars is already in Scorpio. So at least the ruler of Rao is not fallen. Rao is conjunct in Aries here. 21 degrees of Libra. Sort of a kind of applying, the nodes are applying to trine Saturn, but Mars is more the trine with Saturn. And there is an applying aspect to Pluto, okay? So this is an eclipse applying to Pluto and involving Aries, the squaring Pluto. So this eclipse is applying to oppose Aries, with Mars strong in Scorpio but closer to Keto. Closures, okay, we are still making way. Mars is still making way for the new. It's still closing stuff. Mars is very strategic here, okay? It's very strategic here. It's closing stuff. Venus is in Virgo, which is not the best position. She separates from opposition to Saturn and conjunction with Lilith. So yes, this is the time to pull your Algol ceremonies and your Algol talismans for kind of like for protection. Mars is having certain closure, okay? It does sextile Saturn. It separates from square to Pluto. To say that this is the most benevolent energy on a mundane level, I can't say this. But Mars is also ruling Aries, and this donation is happening with Keto. So we already know people like judges, female judges, anything Venusian that's related with Libra. There can be a risk, there can be certain debts. If the debt is timely, then it will occur. So yes, it can be, okay, it can be. Other than that, it means that the ruler of Aries and the ruler of Rao is acting in the realm of Scorpio. It means that Aries has some deeply transformative closure and not closure for a certain situation, okay? And again, is this in the right light? Is it not in the right? Venus is not in a good situation here. But again, we don't know what Venus. It can be women that were supportive of offenders are eclipsed. It can be women that I don't know, with here Virgo, Libra, Virgo, women bosses, okay, that have been abusive. Because women higher up the hierarchy, the women, the managerial woman here is not in a good situation. So, women who did the bureaucracy, trade, those women need to protect themselves. I can think about a couple of people that I would definitely recommend to work with. Algol. Um, Also with Andromeda to some extent, but the really if you're in any way Venusian, this is the time to pull the Algol stuff. I will not lie to you. That is the Libra. Yeah, it deserves a more in-depth thingy. To say that I like the energies, I don't like it. It's like there's a good potential for a closure that is indeed deep and righteous and transforming, but also provocative and thought-provoking. And it can also be where somebody just closing something in a way that's not really in alignment with the higher truth. So it can be both, okay? But then, yeah, there's just something there that is our view around scorpionic things, powers, kind of like there can be a bit of a closure where the person also regrets later what they did. I can tell you that because it's Mars in the beginning of Scorpion, is closer to Ketu, and Mars is ruling Rahu. So Mars is not really thinking of others. It can be thinking, or Mars is thinking of others. Like it can be both. It can be something that you regret or something that you actually understand that was the right thing to do. Hopefully it will be the latter, but with the mundane world, I don't say it like all people are evolved. So yeah, 28 October 2023. Now we have this lunar eclipse, and the moon is in Taurus degree from my Venus, and the sun is in Scorpio. But the nodes, okay? Rahu is on Aries again, even tighter aspect. Let's see if we can do asteroids here. So I can give you the degree of Aries. Aries is, boom, 24 degrees, okay? There literally are 14 minutes between Rahu and Aries, okay? This is deep, and Mars is actually with my Saturn. Mars is 11 degrees Scorpio, conjuncting Pluto. Mercury is retrograde without telling me Mercury is retrograde at the time of the broadcast, but this is a direct Mercury conjuncting Mars here. And Aries Rahu. There's something in me that likes this because Mercury is a very deep and profound thinker, and Rahu Aries is the card of discord. So whatever is done here, hopefully it will not be a farce. Whatever is done here, and the sun is together with Mars, it's deeply psychological, and there's something in me that even likes this thing. There is a potential for a very deep psychological truth to guide the actions. The moon is exalted in Taurus here. So it's a deep thinker. The moon is resilient, is exalted. Aries and Rahu are indeed potent. Granted that it's not an act of poisoning. It can be an act of poisoning to those who are poisonous. It can be like people having to taste of their own medicine in regarding to the Aries thingy. But again, as with anything in this era, it can still go weird. It can still go not to the right direction that we wanted it. So we don't know what will be, basically. We don't know what will be. And Aries is still squaring Pluto, okay? So yes, there is the square to Pluto. I think it is already touching the Pluto return to the United States again, like the Pluto return for the United States. I don't know. It is getting very weird with the United States, with the world in general. So yeah, that is the lunar eclipse. Venus, the ruler, is still in Virgo in the 18th degree. It's not a good degree, and she's applying to oppose Neptune. So while the moon is exalted, it's not highly supported. And Venus is applying to trine a retrograde Uranus. So there's something sudden, emotional upheaval, attempts to do something. There is an attempt to do some very deep and concise thought here. And Mars is opposing Jupiter. Unfortunately, this can be religious conflict, religious war. Yeah. Hopefully an end to a religious conflict, but I don't know. You know, there are good and bad things that can happen with this one. Mercury in Scorpio is a deep thinker, okay? But again, if nothing can stop a person from deciding to be stupid. If you take all of your insight and you use it not in the light, and Venus here is not in a good position, then you are a maverick at being stupid, and that can unfortunately also occur here. Okay, somebody can have a very deep, penetrative insight and act on it, but there are. But they simply chose a certain road that is not of the light. Here it's a Scorpio, so I don't know about the decans, if it's like the second decan of Scorpio. I don't know the decans. I don't know the faces thingy. It's something that I'm waiting for the updated book by Austin Kopek to kind of learn the updated version of it. So we'll see where it's landing. It's not that there isn't great potential to actually do something beneficial. It's kind of like the penis people take the reign, but it's not impossible for them to do something that's actually right. Okay? But then if Venus is in such a position, they really need to choose light. Okay, they really it can be where that type of Venus that is managerial, the clerical work, the woman that was supposed to hold men accountable but doesn't, is kind of like being thrown out, and then it's kind of like, okay, let the people who knows the material, let us deal with that, because we know how to put these people to justice. You women are too naive, and sometimes they are correct. But on the other hand, it can be deciding to act in a certain way that is not so dignified, but it's like you have all the technology, but you're using it for the bad. You have all the technology, all the logic, all the insight, all the ability, the card is which you just chose to use it, or either you chose or you just were stupid. Also Scorpionic Marses can do, Mercury's can do something that is stupid. We're not exempt from mistakes. So all in all, I like the potential. I like this in the sense that there is a potential to do something good in a Martian, deeply psychological way, where it's kind of like, ladies diplomats, and idealist people of the world, you step aside, back, let us take care of it, and it's actually right. Because sometimes it is, but sometimes it's kind of like, let us do what we can do with our technology, with our deep insight, with everything that we have, and the Venusian here is kind of like not in a good situation with this. So it's like we're doing the right thing, but we kind of missed the way, or our strategy was very good for Scorpio, but it was not so good for women. And sometimes you try to do the right thing even towards women, but they don't understand you. It's kind of like you try to solve a problem, and a woman is looking for validation and acknowledgement. It can be something as simple as that. It's kind of like I need you. I recently had this talk with my parent, and I was not able to contain them. And I was like, okay, I have a solution if you're willing to hear about this, but I cannot endure right now to be, to listen and to be, all these things that you need, you rightfully need, but I can't do it. And so this can also be the situation. It's like you're deeply psychologically concentrated to solve a problem, right? But you forgot that there is also sensitivities out there. The moon is exalted. But it can still be a kind of situation where your need for having validation is right, but I really need to solve this problem. um, I think we had a recent discussion also in the astrological community by some people that were trying to kind of get the essence of something and kind of give the solution, and they were not able to give this like validation and compassion and whatnot. And it was like, but we want to solve this problem, and the other person just needed something completely different right now. And that doesn't mean that they just mean that they have emotional needs. Moon in Scorpio understands that, they acknowledge that they have their emotional needs, that they need validation, that they need a sense of values or valuables as well. So yeah, and I think there can be emotional boundaries reached with that one, but not necessarily not righteous action. The right thing done, but without acknowledging the emotions that are very much needed. But the moon in Taurus will still give us the understanding that it's legitimate to desire that our needs are met, even when the solution that they're given is right. It's legitimate to desire that we will be acknowledged, validated, and so on and so forth, even when they're doing the right solution. So yeah, that's what we have here. We're gonna have another. You want me to look at the rest of them, like March 25? I had a video a while ago about eclipses. This one is with Chiron, and I gave the 50 years Chiron timestamp. That is problematic, and 5 degrees Venus at least exalted, and Mars in Pisces. Not the easiest, but it's not impossible for Mars in Pisces at all. It merges with the goal, although it can get lost. And then the 8th April 2024, 19 degrees. Let me take a look at the asteroids here. Where is Aries? 24 still. Okay, so Aries is sitting pretty at the 24 degree with Mercury retrograde in Taurus, probably. Yeah, Mercury retrograde. Oh, in Aries, it goes from Taurus to Aries. So Mercury would be with Aries, but Aries is not going to be like, it's still but it's more the Chiron. The 24 are more like the Chiron eclipses, and Venus is going to be there too, but not close. Venus is going to be with Hygeia, trine in Sappho, but this is more like Chiron stuff, and Chiron stuff can be intense because it's 50%, 50 years time stamps on whatever happens there. So this it can be a wounding that we take 5 decades to speak about the things that happen, or alternatively and preferably exposing the things that have already having had 50-year cycle. That's it. It's a very comprehensive video. You know what I am going to do? I am a person, and I am going to do what Mars is going to trigger for you in Libra. So let's do Ascendant Aries. Ascendant Aries, Libra is your 8th house. Okay, it's 1 hour 19 minutes. Libra is your 8th house. your seventh house, sorry. Ascendant Aries, Libra is your seventh house. Mars going through your seventh. Anything that needs to be rearranged about one-to-one partnership, romantic or business, or with enemies that are open enemies, is being assorted. You're being called to address. Right now we have Mars in Virgo. All the Pisces ascendants are kind of called in to set the boundary straight on relationship, but also to make the moves if they are so inclined. Mercury is retrograde, is not inclined at all. So here we're going to have a period where you're gonna be taking action in regards to your relations, and I don't think this action is commitment unless there are various particular cases where it is. And you might be severing ties with various partners, because Ketu is here in your seventh house. So anything that no longer serves, including relationships and enemies, you might be getting rid of enemies. So that is not necessarily a bad thing. Ascendant Taurus. For you, Libra is in the sixth house of health. And you have Ketu here. Now you might be getting rid of an ailment. You might be getting rid of an enemy at work. You might be letting go of a pet. This can also become sick, but it's with Ketu, it's those kind of sickness that come with something. Okay, so you might get pay attention to your kidneys, which is Libra. Not excess salt eating. And those are the things that you will be having here. You run the risk of suffering accidents or inflammation. So yeah, it can be destabilizing. You can be letting go of an old job, or letting go of employees, all of the above. Ascendant Gemini, Libra is your fifth house, so you might even be letting go of a certain status if you have children or not having children, because Libra is status. So with Ketu here, although it's usually unlikely, it's not impossible that you let go of your fertility status. So if you've been infertile, then you can actually conceive, and in that case it's something to do with, like, maybe you knew this baby in past life, or somebody reincarnating, you have this connection, you can have this deep connection. If you're going through menopause, that might be one of the significations, but you need a couple of significant, at least 3-4 significations for something. And other things, fifth house, you might be letting go of an old hobby or creative project. Okay, you might be birthing certain project, and so you're letting go. It's no longer in your hands. You might be letting go of addiction that you have to gambling. If you are dealing with that can be something you're purging, and kind of Mars assists you, even though it's weak, to make this decisive action and make place for the new for you. So you might be desiring life and goal dreams, or to crowdfund your book, but you have some sort of addiction, even to sweets that you're dealing with, or relational addictions, and you're just like, or to romance, or to the feeling of being in love, and you kind of like, you ditch it in favor of your dreams and goals. Or you're letting go of an affair. Okay, it's like you have a romance. You could have a fated romance that is somebody from like past karma returning. You can have a nice romance and then like sever ties. So that can be. Ascendant Cancer, Libra would be your fourth house. Mars going through this, so the usual drama between siblings. Your house, there are people that had Scorpios inside their physical house, so it's not going to be the heat season, so I don't think you'll necessarily see a Scorpio. But accidents, inflammation, stuff like that can happen in the house. Things might get broken and you need to fix them, and that includes relationships. Because Ketu is here, then you might be letting go. Yes, it is the house that where people can let go of their own life. Granted that you are not going to die, or somebody in your family, a mother or father, are going to die, which takes a lot more signification than one. Then you're letting go of some of your old, uh, even ancestral wounds, because it's ancestry. So ancestral wounds, you can let go of ancestral wounds that affect your wealth, your house, your ability to make a home of your own. You can set straight, you can sever ties wherever it's needed to be. That is pretty much what's going in there. Depending on what you have in your fourth house, you might experience it more with relative ease or not. So the usual Mars in the fourth drama. Ascendant Leo. Mars is going through your third house. Your neighbors, your siblings, and besties, and your daily routine might be unnerved by accidents, fights, conflicts that have a certain fated quality. You might be either you care more for your siblings, or your siblings care about you more than you understand, because of this, Ketu thingy. So that is something you will be tending to. And this is the place where you can have accidents, like in the neighborhood or something. You want to pay attention to that. Granted that you're not going to be poisoned by a sibling, and then and then that is, oh, but you could catch the Aries variant there. This is where Mars goes through. You could catch the Aries variant anyway, so that's just the way it is for the time being. But yeah, you could also make place for the news, so you might be leaving a neighborhood, or say a sibling is moving somewhere, depending on your chart, where to. If you need to sever ties with even the closest or the besties that are like, okay, they're being poisonous, I'm not doing this anymore, then you will be doing it. Mars will allow you to do so. So what no longer serves, poof, is out the doorway. Ascendant Virgo, Libra is in your second house, and there is a certain type of, you could be re-practicing an old skill, okay, because it's the house of skills. You could be, so other than gaining skill, you could be letting go of a business. It's kind of like killing one dream in favor of another. There need to assert or market yourself. You could be more aggressive with your self marketing, but you must be cautious and aware that there's a lot of the equity here that you will not necessarily profit yourself, okay? And you must be aware of this. What else? Well, it's the sign of self-value, so you could be doing more athletics, or you could get structured if you didn't do so when Mars was in Virgo. So that can mean you can feel more revitalized, even though Mars is falling in Libra. But there can also be accidents when you're working out. If this workout has to do with your sense of like self-value and confidence and how good you look, you might be letting go, for example, doing exercise to look good, which is a very, very beneficial thing. You might be doing that for other reasons. Yeah, because Mars rules your 8th house, then certain, if you've been gaining income from investment, then you might have to seize it and to make place for the new. It doesn't mean you will be poor, it just means that the income means change at this time for you, which can also be very positive. Or you might be stopping to make money from skill and starting to make money from investment. This can also be the case for you. Investments start to yield and you kind of retire. Ascendant Libra. So I definitely predict that the
arguments on whether Beyonce's Libra or Scorpio ascendant will continue through Mars in Libra. Um, but other than that, for you, you should also be particularly careful from accidents that affect your body, inflammation, and of that sort, because this is your body, your first house, your appearance. You might be kind of like shedding old skin, transforming your appearance, returning to to an old look, or letting go of a look that you've held, kind of changing your looks. Rao is in your seventh house, so you might be a bit codependent for the time being. Doesn't mean that you're actually codependent. It means that any tendency that you have to be codependent will rise to the surface, because right now all eyes on your partner, but now this partner has eyes on you because you are, accentuated by Mars, and Mars is the ruler of your seventh. Your partner might be trying to advance with you in a certain way, but it's difficult because Ketu is in your sign, and Ketu is about purging, and so you must be cautious that you tend to your own will and desire. And I don't mean that somebody tries to break your boundaries. Like maybe your partner wants to like win you over, but you don't really let them into your secrets or set boundaries that they need to be because you're thinking more about their pleasure than yours. So it's kind of like don't miss a good thing when that happens. Ascendant Scorpio, Libra is in your eighth house, so this is the time to pull your nightmare protective kit, because Mars in the 12th can give nightmares, and with Keto here, yeah, they can be like all kinds of unpleasant stuff. Granted that it's not like psychic attack and stuff, then pull your I'll kit if you need it. If it's like something that threatens your sensual boundaries, your physical boundaries, um, and tries to get at you from the dream state, then you know what to do, right? You know what to do. Or this is a good time where you learn what to do about it. You learn to protect yourself. Mars is more a joy of the sixth, that open enemies, but here's hidden enemies. You can watch my non specific return to sender methods that I post, because Mars is in your 12th. It means that you are not the best at identifying the identity of the enemy, okay? And you can still protect yourself. You don't have to send it, especially you run the risk that because this is Mars here, as rules your sixth, then you can think the enemy is a man and it's a woman. You can think the enemy is a woman and it's a man. Also, this rules Venus is ruling your seventh and it's also ruling your 12th. So depending on where Venus is, it can be your partner that can be a bit of a hidden action. I'm not saying enemy or hidden enemy or like the dark stuff, but if your partner may have hidden affairs, and tackle it with the partner rather than try to send energy to places where you don't know, because your partner could be advancing on somebody that doesn't even look for that. With Mars here in Libra, there can be this indecisive. It doesn't mean that your partner is evil. It just means um, that your issue of the Venusian might not be a woman, but might be, unless it's like your spouse is a woman, you might be dealing more with your spouse doing things that are undermining you. And again, I'm not saying this, it doesn't mean that they're evil, it doesn't mean that they mean harm. It just means that the ruler of your 12 is the ruler of your 7th. And whatever hidden enemies, it means that maybe even action that your partner is doing subconsciously, or the partner choice that you have or whatnot, is just causing you harm, and you're gonna think it's an open enemy. And because the 12th is Venus, you're gonna think I am dealing with another woman, and that other woman is like, I'm trying to clear that energy and manifest somebody who is available for me. This is something that can happen. It's an ongoing thing. It's not the first time you're dealing with that. but Mars is going to re-accentuate. And my suggestion to you: watch my non-specific return to sender. If you feel like psychic attacks or something like this, doesn't mean that your partner is doing this. It's not where I'm going. In some malefic cases, it can, but it's not where I'm going with this. It just means that you want to arrange the energy so that you're protected, so that you're not psychically attacked, without thinking that you know who that is, because you're gonna be tempted to think, oh, there is another woman. Okay, the ruler of the 12 is the ruler of the 7. Oh, there is another woman. Or you might be suspicious of your partner. And there are just more things that you know. And therefore, my suggestion is, do protect vehemently your boundaries. Just make sure that you don't think that you know who and what and how when Mars is in. When Saturn, maybe Saturn in Libra, Saturn is in its joy in its 12th, and Saturn is exalted in Libra. So unless you have natal Saturn in Libra, Mars is the ruler, is its joy in the 6th house. When it comes to the 12th, you might have nightmares, you might have psychic attacks, you might have like inflammation to do with stress, or mental breakdown, or financial worries to cause you stress and inflammation. And you're like, somebody is psychically attacking me. It's like Mars is in your 12th, and can we remedy that? Mars in Libra. So, well, for if you feel like you're being psychically attacked and it's touching on your sexual boundaries, absolutely, I'll go like, don't even anything else. Just like, it's needed. It's needed. But if you feel that there's been like a psychic attack, and you think that there's a third party and so on and so forth, non-specific, even when you turn to algo, go non-specific. And so whatever is, maybe there's a trickster spirit, because Mercury is also involved as the triplicity ruler. Trickster spirit, maybe he's doing shape-shifting, maybe he's doing this, or and with Aries, there's a discord here. Aries in your 6th house, your open enemies, there's discord. There's something, and it can be about your ability to identify. So I want you to protect yourself. I want you to protect your boundaries. I want you to do it, and I want you to do it non-specifically. Call on the Jinn or whatever, which is, maybe it's Algo, maybe it's Kali, maybe it's Durga, whatever you're working with, Lilith. Call on the Jinn and ask for that to return to sender, without specifying who the sender is. Like, whoever this sender really is, have that return to sender. Whoever this sender really is, tackle that through the return to sender, and not through the shapes that the gene takes on. This is going to be very beneficial for you throughout the entire Mars in Libra. You're not going crazy, it's just Mars in Libra. Okay. Ascendant Sagittarius. Ascendant Sagittarius, Libra is in your 11th house. So you could be dealing with conflicts and arguments with your colleagues on social media, trade. You could be having ups and downs with trade. You could be having a benefit from trade that you later have to donate, or you want to donate for some reason, or you're letting it go. It's like you take this profit, you take the crown, but you're letting it go because it's not supportive of what you want, or the way you want to have your hobbies or lifestyle. It basically means you're letting go of chasing your dreams and goals. You might be achieving your dreams and goals and letting them go in favor of bringing a child to the world, a new creative project that you do. If you have connection between the 11th and the 5th, then you might be making new profit from a new creative project, and kind of closing on the previous one. So that is basically where you're heading. Mars is ruling your 12th house, so there can be some enemies that are hidden, some hidden action, hidden motivation, some lack of awareness from you. or you could be simply having a public agenda to do with mental health, or uh, treating people who are in penitentiary differently, or in hospital or something like this. Ascendant Capricorn. So for you, Ascendant Capricorn, Libra is in the 10th house. Conflicts with one of your paternal or maternal figures, conflicts with your boss. You could be getting a position where you have to take care of others. It's fated for you. If you get a promotion at this time, it is fated for you. You could be giving up a certain position that is higher up the rank in favor of tending to home. Right now, home life and your home, your physical home or your ancestry is more important. Granted, it's not like that for you, then tending to home is more important. And whatever happens with Mars, it's kind of like it's purging. It's necessary purging so that you will tend to what you need to tend to. So maybe it's your status, maybe it's how you look to the world, maybe it's from your parents, maybe it's your boss, maybe it's you as a boss. If you get a promotion, it is very fated at this time, but you might be caring for your home or yourself. That can also be one of the things that happen. Ascendant Aquarius, Libra is in your 9th house. You might be finishing a degree, okay? Finishing a degree that gets you a certain job, because Mars is heading towards your 10th, okay? So this is quite beautiful, or you might be having conflict with academic staff or with people abroad. Traveling, you can have accidents. If you're teaching higher knowledge, you might have accidents. But it's more like you have, if you've been working on a book or a thesis or PhD, then you perhaps might be coming, bringing that to fruition, closing ties, and so you're basically already almost ready to publish, and letting go. Okay, it's another form of letting go of it. You might be finishing with writing books and returning to writing blogs. But right now it's kind of like, or publishing a book of blogs, or so you're letting go of it. And profit-wise, it may be that you're donating the profits, or that you're finishing with a, I don't know, a debt or something. Although, yeah, Taurus is your fourth, so maybe it's going to go to your home, to the people at home, to profits, and so you're not thinking about finances. You're thinking more about legacy, probably. And Pisces ascendant. Libra is your 8th house, Mars through your 8th. So succession of investments. If you've been getting intergenerational wealth or inheritance, then that might be finalized, but you're gonna maybe have to let it go. Mars is closing ties. If you have had certain partnerships that you need to close ties with, that you have joint finances, so you might be separating your finances as partners. So that may be the case for you. Why am I seeing Mars in Saturn sign? Looking at the entire long chart. Anyway, 8th house. So any joint finances that you have may be coming to an end. Think about 18 years ago. Okay, what process started 18 years ago? Any joint assets that you may have with the partner, business or romantic, you might be needing to sever ties, you might be needing to sell, you might be needing to let go of these in favor of making money from your skill. Okay, you may have acquired a skill and you need to sort of like tie loose ends and sever ties so that you're ready for this brand new beginning in your income stream, in your skill. Other things, eighth house, granted that you're not going to die, or your partner, then you may be closing a circle with certain traumas that have been accompanying you for 18 years. Okay, so ancestry line, birth and death, labor, um, stuff like that. So there's also eighth house can be also related to fertility and birthing. If you have birth traumas, you might be tending to those. Um, so there's a lot of healing, and yet, Mars, it can bring some heated arguments or conflicts to the table. It's not so decisive, so you could be perceived as manipulative, or somebody, or perceiving someone as manipulative when you're just undecisive. That's it. That's the whole shebang. So thank you so much for watching. This is Mars in Libra, and I'll see you in my next episodes. Bye bye.